Hey Kyle, hey Robin, hey everybody else. In case you didn't know, last month Kyle welcomed a beautiful baby boy with his wife Tina into the world, and in celebration of that, I guess, we are going to talk about gaming with kids this month. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, Kyle, and really anybody else who would like to know, it's perfectly normal and okay. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that I encourage you just go ahead and buy all the games that you think your kid might like playing later in life. Just do that now. Just get it out of the way. It's okay. I am pretty sure that you guys are aware of the fact that I have 3 kids. I have an 11-year-old, I have a just turned 4-year-old, and I have a 2.5-year-old. Their gaming stories have developed in such a different way. My oldest, he played, mass-produced American games, categories and Pictionary and games like that. And then we introduced them to these types of games. And my tiny 2, well, they've been gaming since forever. I'm pretty sure both of their first words were dice, and I know for a fact that my son's first laugh was to a shuffling of cards, so gaming's pretty much ingrained in them as well. A lot of people ask me, what game should I introduce my kids to? What do you think they might enjoy, to be honest? There isn't really a right answer to this. There's, kind of like a general, they're probably like these games, but you don't want to rule things out. For instance, my 7-year-old, who's now 11, but when he was 7, his first game he ever played was, oh my god, this game is so heavy, Railroad Tycoon. This was the first game he played. I don't know why we thought that would be a good first game for him. Stocks and economies and pick up and deliver. And then from there, he went on to play things like Stone Age and Belfort and Shipyard and Kalis. And he did just fine. He did great with those games. I'm not saying that's right for all 7-year-olds to start them off with Kalis. There's a lot of adults who are like, yeah, let's not do that. It worked for him. So if you have a child, don't think that you need to play it doesn't have to be King of Tokyo. That could be a great game for kids because it's engaging with the theme and I'm gonna monster you or whatever. That could be very good. But don't rule out a Euro game because it might be something that appeals to them maybe slightly more. I don't know, but just a thought. Gaming with him has been very different than obviously my tiny 2 because he's old enough to understand gaming and the social dynamics that happen at the table. That being said, I don't believe that kids should win unless they earn it. Having him lose 90% of the games he plays. Maybe that makes me a bad mom. I don't know, but I'm not like, oh, let's give everybody a cookie and a hug because you showed up. No, that's not me. And my tiny 2, I let them lose too all the time. I will say with my oldest, games are not modified. They're played however they're supposed to be played. We don't house rule or anything like that. But with a tiny 2, it kind of makes sense because they're toddlers and they barely understand how to deal with any emotion, let alone the complex situation going on at a game table. So I do think for toddlers, it's okay to change the game a little bit, like Monza, for instance, which is a great game by HuOhge, and there are 6 dice, I think, and there's colors on the track that are all rectangles, and you roll these dice to begin with, and if you can match your dice to the track in front of you, you can keep moving forward, but when that stops, you have to stop. So one easy modification for that was just get rid of some of the dice, because it's overwhelming for a little kid, and as long as they know colors, they should be fine. You just take away some of those dice, and then boom, boom, they get 3 moves or 4, whatever it may be that you modify it to fit their level, and that's fine. Another one that gets modified for the tiny 2 is Fun Farm by Yellow. This game normally makes people want to punch people because there are cards in the middle and they're surrounded by these squishy animals and you're rolling dice, and if one of those dice matches one of the cards in the middle, you have to grab that animal and you have to be the first to grab that animal. So, it can get a little violent maybe sometimes depending on just everybody's hands grabbing at once. Stuff is gonna happen. With my tiny 2, what I did for them is they had to match the dice to the card first, and then they could grab the animal. Or once they were able to do that, they could just point to the card and then grab the animal, to prove that there was a match. And that works much better than just letting it be a free-for-all. Another game that is different for kids is Mucca Pazza. What you do is you flip a little animal tile over, and then you have 3 moves to be able to get that tile's animal built. So you can either push left or right, either one of the 3, the head, the body or the leg sections, and you can push the little tiles over to get your animal built. And if you get your animal built, you get a tile. And it's just a different approach to gaming. And it's fun because it's monsters, and it's silly because you're building them and making them all funny and whatever. Another game that we've recently started playing is Viva Topo. It is basically roll and move. You are mice trying to get cheese, and then there's a cat that moves around the board that might eat your mice. But it's also kind of push your luck because there are in the different corners of the board, you can stop and get little like wedges of cheese, and these wedges of cheese are worth points at the end. So if you pass by one of those rooms, you can choose to go in there, but then you've lost that ability to move that mouse again. So it's kind of like push your luck in that you're like, hey, I want this like 1 wedge of cheese, but if I just pass it, maybe I can get to the 2 wedge of cheese. Where's the cat? Oh, I got plenty of time. I can just keep going. Busy airport. It's really fun. It comes with its own dice tower, and you have these islands, like you have these 4 different locations, and they go out onto wherever you want. You could have them all on your table. You could put one in the living room, you could put one on the kitchen counter, and you can just put these little islands wherever you want, which is really neat. And that's where the kids, I think, have the most fun doing it. But you have this dice tower, and you roll the dice, and you load passengers onto your plane, and then the plane takes off if you roll the plane dice. And then you go to the location of the people in your plane, and then you pick up souvenirs, and the souvenirs, they have variable values, 1 to 4. So you're going to the beach, for example, and if you have 1 beach person, you pull a beach guy or a beach bag, and you put it in your plane, and then you fly back to the airport, and you get to keep that little souvenir that you got, and maybe it's 1, maybe it's 4, I don't know, but that's how you win at the end of the game, is by doing that. The flying to the different locations is just so much fun for the kids. Another fun one that you can get at Target is Bugs in the Kitchen. Is basically a roach going through a maze in a kitchen, and you are trying to, well, there's a couple different ways you can do it, but we usually do it that you're trying to get the roach into the other person's kitchen. So you roll this dice, and you're able to move the silverware, which is what creates the walls of the maze, and it's a spoon, a fork, or a knife, and whatever that you roll is what you're able to move. You move one of them, and the little bugs all the whole time go, and once it gets into the other person's kitchen, then you're like, ha ha ha, and you get a point or whatever. Those are games I like to play with my kids. That's how I like to game with my kids. Robin, how do you game with your kids? I know we've talked before, and I think I remember you saying something about there being like a language barrier. So how do you overcome that when playing games? And your kids are also older, so how do you deal with the fact they don't like playing games if they don't, in fact, like playing games? In which case, I would just say put them up for adoption, right? Right. I guess I will see you guys in a couple weeks.